So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the virtual Canadian HR conference. Emily Rice is a recruitment and grant specialist at Collective Arts Brewing, and she is one of these first speakers for today. I'm just going to read her bio quickly, and then she can carry on with her presentation. So Emily offers her expertise in working with companies looking to enhance their company culture and grow their teams. Her specialty is the ability to bring out the spark in organizations that contribute to an enriched company and a happy workplace. Emily has experience working with small and large institutions across several different industries like consumer packaged goods, manufacturing, technology, higher education, and more. Thank you, Emily, for your presentation. I know you've spoken at a couple of our events in the past, so we're really happy to have you back. Good luck on your presentation, and I just want to really encourage everyone to use the chat section in the session. Ask as many questions as you like, and of course, Emily will be here to answer them.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Sandra. I appreciate it. Just going to share my screen now. Hi, everyone. All right. Let's rock and roll. So intro, hi, my name's Emily. Sandra did a nice little introduction for me, but I am the recruiter at Collective Arts Brewing based out of Hamilton, Ontario. Me and myself, I'm here in Toronto. I have an interesting role here at Collective, so I do all recruiting for all positions at the company, but I also do all things grants. Which is an interesting combination. I know a lot of folks don't naturally put two and two together. So that's why, this is a really informative session. One definitely coincides with the other. So we'll jump right into it. This is super informative too. It's ever changing in terms of grants. I have a lot of examples in here. I believe this is going to be shared out. I am by no means, I do not work for, a grant writing type of company or anything like that. So I can't offer too much of advice, but I just like to put this out there just because I know when I started, I wasn't really aware of the amount of incentives that the government and country in general does have for all different size businesses. So just like to highlight it for others to learn. Cool. So, when I joined the company and we had this opportunity, person who previously was doing grants, they went on maternity leave. And I saw this natural opportunity in general. I was hiring a lot of folks, especially in the tourism industry. And I noticed that there were a lot of incentives out there, especially during the pandemic. It is an interesting time in regards to hiring. I think we're all kind of in the same boat there on dealing with the waves this past year. But the government in general is putting a lot of incentives out there to help businesses continue to flourish during these challenging times. So yeah, once again, I'm just going to kind of briefly go over, how we can in general utilize these incentives and then help grow the business. A weird time for a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, I would say small to medium sized. Collective Arts Brewing, our employee count is around 200. So we are growing at a pretty fast pace. But, that being said, we've felt the past year and what the pandemic has put us through. When it does, come to growing your business, especially if you are a small business, I know at times it can kind of seem like, how am I able to add more, employee count whenever we're just trying to get by? So in general, there is financial help that can help you with this. Basically, grants can really help offload a lot of these costs. Canada, obviously, in general, they want businesses to thrive and continue to do well during this time. And then also, of course, lower the unemployment rate. So they're finding specific niches that are struggling with, in general, getting jobs in the workplace. And then so they have a lot of incentives that help specific categories, which I'll dive into in a little bit. But that being said, really, honestly, when you're taking a step back and you're thinking about how can I grow my business in general, I always say, really do consider when you are adding your employee count, think about always how we can utilize the government. There are so many grants out there, as I mentioned, all different sizes. So grants specific to small businesses, grants specific to small medium. They have something for everyone, really. But by utilizing the idea that, half of a salary could be covered by bringing on a staff member, that can really make a difference when it comes into strategy mode and growth mode. What does it mean for Ontario businesses? To put some data behind, I literally just pulled a lot of this from the most recent, we just had a recent election. So we just found out a lot of great information on how much of the Ontario 2021 budget, and this is just pulling from the past year in general, but they put a total of $23.3 billion to, help out local businesses during this time. Ranges everything from hiring to even like PPE. So if you need to, get masks and stuff for your staff, like there's a ton of money that across the board that was implemented this past year. But out of that 23.3 billion, $614.3 million of that was put directly towards hiring and training support programs. So it just shows you the amount in general that is allocated for businesses to help continue to, help the economy and businesses in general. With more data, 85 million went towards skills development fund. So this is a fund basically helping to train your internal employee members. 117.3 million was to help assist women, racialized individuals, Indigenous people, youth, and people with disabilities. So as I mentioned, when the Canadian government, when they're taking a look on how to allocate funds each year, they're thinking about things like who needs the most help, who is getting impacted the worst by this. So a huge chunk of that is to help support those. 157.2 million to provide career counseling and urgent training for employees that are, as I mentioned, in that hardest hit sector. So, they're looking at the job rate, but they're also looking at the specific businesses. I am in the beer industry. A lot of people, they go and they want their craft beers. They'll travel and drive 2 hours for a pint. So, different industries, the beer industry in general, we definitely saw a bit of a downtick with our natural tourism that would happen during the summer. But if you think about places like B&Bs, food tours, like they in general, without having some sort of financial incentive, a lot of them unfortunately really, really struggled this past year. 194 million to support Ontario workers with additional employment and training programs. So a lot of money going towards those training programs. Great resource. So, and I am not endorsed by MentorWorks at all, but MentorWorks is a fantastic company I've been working with for the past probably year or so. They really help you discover grants that are out there, and then they will actually help you with the application. There is a fee associated, but if you are looking for somebody to hold your hand and help guide you through this, I highly recommend. They've been a great resource for us for the past year. Hiring and grants. So let's talk about specifically hiring, because I mentioned, there's training, there's some things like that, but there's currently, just checking, there's more than 24 open grants that are solely for hiring students, apprentices, interns, and then co-op students in general. There is a huge push this year to hire new grads in general. So it's a really great thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about that strategy piece on growing the business. That there's so much money that the Ontario government and Canada in general is giving out for these companies to help grow the new grads in general. So there's grants, subsidies, tax credits, and refunds. So tax credits, another big one too. I know it's not directly a grant, but definitely connect with your finance team. There's a lot of tax credits. I'll chat about some specifics in a little bit, but lots out there for companies to utilize. Here's some examples. These I have not necessarily utilized all of these, but this in general were just a few that I pulled. Ontario Jobs Training and Tax Credit. $2,000 per recipient, up to 50% of eligible expenses. To $260 million was put towards in 2021, and then it helped about 230,000 people. So job training, what does that mean specifically? I've seen companies use this for project management courses. I've seen companies use this for specific, for me, I think about our actual operations in our brew house. So forklift training. I've seen it for specific training in really, really niche areas. So I think of, training on what's good at coding, for example. You could utilize that. What they're going to do, there is a lot of paperwork associated with this. I will be transparent. We have utilized this one, but what they just want to see clear growth. So, you put the you find whatever employee on your team, you find a great training program, you put 2 and 2 together, and they will help fund that training. But they in return need to see that person is either going to get a promotion within the year or a pay raise, something like that. So it's a win-win situation. Canada Job Grant. So that's the tax credit. Job grant is specifically what I was thinking about. So 50 to 100% of eligible costs covered in most provinces. I believe it's up to $10,000. Once again, I would double check on that one, but they go hand in hand again. So the training costs that you spend towards one applicant for like the forklift certification, for example, you could get a tax credit and then also get funding for it. And summer jobs. This is currently closed, but this is a good one to keep in mind for next year. It is not guaranteed that, year after year that they're going to go with the same funds, but this one has been open for the past couple of years. But this provides up to 50% of employee minimum hourly rate. If you're a nonprofit, you can get up to 100% covered. So once again, incredible initiative. Definitely helps with expanding your employee count. My Tax Accelerate. This is really great for folks that are in the research and science field in general. From my understanding, they will pair you with a student that from a local organization. So I know University of Toronto, I believe, is involved with this, Guelph. But they basically will match you with the student in that industry. So a lot of times like quality assurance, very, very scientific positions in general, but they will pay up to $7,500 for that student. APMA, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, EDI Fund. 800 participants will receive up to $8,000 in training costs. So that's another great one. I'm just going to kind of go through these. And once again, these are, if you see one that could be applicable to you, just write a little note and definitely do Google search later. Career Ready with CTMA, 30% of wages paid up to $3,000 for each placement. OMTP, non-repayable contributions, $100,000 towards eligible expenses. People and Talent Program, 90% of an Indigenous person's salary up to $52.5K, and then up to 90% of other applicants for up to $35,000 a year. IRAP is a great one. I've had a lot of success with this one. Youth Employment Program provides up to $30,000 per graduate for periods of 6 to 12 months. So basically, you would have the person on your payroll as a contractor, and then that's how you would get that reimbursed. One I really want to bring up, so I mentioned there's a lot of emphasis for new grads this year, but also students who are currently enrolled in higher ed. So whether it's a co-op program, an internship, there's sometimes it's called the work in field placements. This SWPP has been a huge success for me personally. Every student that we bring on for a co-op term, I put in the paperwork, and you can get up to $5,000 for every student that you hire through the program. And if it's, as you can see, there's a couple dots down here: women in STEM, person with disability, newcomer, Indigenous student, or has visible minorities, you can get actually up to $7,000. This used to be $7,500, I think back earlier last year. So it looks like it went down to $7,000, but another really fantastic opportunity for folks to utilize. Really can help offload a lot of, if your team is dealing with burnout and overworked in general. I know having co-ops and interns, they're fantastic resources. It's a win-win. You get to help out the student, give them some experience, but you also, once again, it's a really great way to have access to new talent. There's different sectors for the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy. So this is called YESS. I just call it the Yes Fund, but I found in general we utilize this a lot because we are in the agricultural space. We make beer. We do utilize the one specifically for agriculture, but I recommend just doing a quick Google search. As you can see, there's a bunch of different specific areas that are allocated. Basically, the government gives Youth Employment and Skills Strategy a bunch of money and they divide it up this way. So different sectors, science, tech, engineering, math, green jobs, and the environment. There's a lot of funds in general, so not even just in hiring, but for businesses, if you are looking to greenify your business and have sustainability at the forefront. Digital training, skills and experience, agriculture, culture and heritage. I know there's a lot of funds also available. I don't know if you're familiar with Collective Arts Brewing, but we're very involved in the art space. So I know if you're a nonprofit in the art space, lots of museums, there's a ton of grants for different art initiatives, especially in Toronto. International development in the global community, and then innovation is a huge one. So I know a lot of manufacturers who, if you think about Hamilton, we have a lot of, auto type of factories and things like that. Any type of innovation, there's a lot of funding that goes behind those initiatives. Tips. When I first started this, I thought it was going to be easy peasy. You just had to do a quick little application and you get it back. And then you have to be realistic with your managers that it does take time to get approval. You can't just find a co-op student and be like, oh, we're going to quickly put it in last minute. It does take sometimes up to a month, sometimes 2 months to get the approval. So I always say start early if you are planning, to bring new folks onto the team or apply for any type of funding in general. It does take some time. Some other initiatives that aren't related to hiring can take all the way up to a year to get approval time. So just keep that in mind when you're chatting with your team. There is substantial paperwork involved too. I did mention, so there's a couple of grant companies out there that will help you with this, and basically they'll help you write the application, things like that. But the more organized you are, the better. You will get audited at the end of the term. So especially for the co-op students and stuff, make sure you have their offer of employment. You will get a letter from the school. Any type of tax incentive, just keep all those files on hand because the government can come back and audit you at any time. And then I just mentioned the auditing. But yeah, so it's very convenient. It's a fantastic resource, but it is work, to be honest. So I like to be transparent and put that in the front of mind that it does take time. Patience is needed. If you are in recruiting and you're working with a manager, just to keep that in mind when you are chatting with the manager, that it's not just overnight for some of these things. That's basically it. I know it's a very quick little short summary of kind of what I do and what some things that I've utilized, but definitely open to questions. I mentioned I'm not working for a grant company, so I can't necessarily speak to some of the specifics, but if you have any questions on specifically hiring co-op students, that's a big one that we've really utilized in the past. You can jump right into the chat box, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can take a peek at that. And if you have any other questions about recruitment in the tourism industry or anything like that, I'm happy to help answer. Let's see. I think you can ask questions if you go under the session feature. There's that Q&A. What's the best program for restaurant staff? Great question. Summer jobs is a huge one. I know for us, summer, something like drinking a beer and in the sunshine. So that's a really great grant that you can utilize. If you do happen to have them in some sort of managerial training where you bring them on and you create a growth plan for them, there are a lot of training incentives that you can put forward. So the Canada Job Growth, that's a great one as well. You can put them in a hospitality management training session. And I can guarantee you're going to get some better applicants if you guarantee some sort of training like that. Basically, in general, if all those SWPPs, Youth Employment Service, definitely check out I'm going to put it in the chat. Youth Employment Services. Something similar to that. Do a Google search. I mentioned there's a couple sectors. So I was able to apply for the agriculture, but there is ones that are specific to tourism. So if you're looking for a manager, for example, or someone to help with the management of, I keep saying management, but I know there's some that are specific with Guelph within the food program. That's another great one to take a look at. That's the route I would go. No worries. Too for SWPP. That's if you're looking to bring on anybody under 30, they are applicable for that's that 5,000 and then the 7,000 if they're within the minority group. Anybody else have any questions about grants, funding, incentives? I have been a recruiter for some time now, so any recruitment questions as well, I'm happy to help answer. Amazing. So I'm going to drop my LinkedIn in here. If you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. I'm happy to stay connected. You can always shoot me a message through LinkedIn if you have any other additional questions about what I do and how to utilize funding. We're all in this together, so happy to share the knowledge. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I'm going to head into the networking event, but I appreciate you taking the time to listen. And reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.